welcome to Living the Authentic Life. Today, I am here with one of my favorite ladies about town, Lara Bell. And Rob is not here, but he loves to call her Lara Bell, as if it's her first name and not her first and last name.
Oh, yeah.
But he is not with us today. He's only here in spirit. So Rob was featured on the cover of her incredible memorial magazine. Where is this one of them? Look at how cute my husband is. He's kind of handsome, isn't he?
It turned out really cute. It did.
So people are like, oh my God, how did you even get on the cover of a magazine? And I said, well, we've been friends for a long time, and people now are really noticing Rob, and his story's pretty
It's a cool story. It is. It's a cool story.
Yes.
For sure.
So, but we're not here to talk about him today. We are here to talk about you.
Friendship.
Yes. Friendship, connection, community, belonging, and you are a woman of distinction. You have...
Along with you.
Together, like, we have this amazing community of women in Houston that do incredible things. But you're a little different, as am I, to the fact that we're working girls. We actually have a job in addition to what we do in the community. And you have this long line of broadcasting background.
I do.
And you went from working and having your own show, and were public affairs director at KTBU, and then produced Tube Talk, and then Wild About Houston. So tell us how Houstonian memorial girl, so many young girls want to be on TV. How'd you do that? And then now you own your own magazine?
Yes.
You go, girl.
I'm a
Girlboss.
girl boss. I've been wanting to be a girl boss. I'm finally a girl boss. No, so really what happened is, I think a lot of kids, they know from a young age if what they want to do with their career. I was one that happened to know. You know, I was like pretending to be a reporter, and I would knock on neighbors' doors, and I like had a tennis ball with tinfoil all around it, and I would be shoving, fake microphones in people's faces. And so I always knew that I was going to work in television. I wasn't sure how, but I always knew I was going to work in television. And I think what really did it for me was, it was in 1992. The Republican National Convention was here in Houston, and I was able to be a page for Dan Rather. And
oh my gosh,
yes,
I got chills for you.
I'm like 20, I don't know, I'm young, and I got to be a page for him. And so I just thought it was the coolest thing. And so from that moment on, I really fast-tracked, and I got an internship. I think I was making maybe $3.35 an hour at the community television station, and I was there for 5 years, and I was really able to sink my teeth and learn the business before I moved over to KTBU, and I was there for 14 years. Pretty much my whole career was at KTBU. And then I left in 2011. And it was a hard decision to leave because I had a very successful show. It was fun. It was a lot of work, but I had a third grader and a kindergartner. I would feel guilty, and I know you moms are out there are the same way. You feel guilty missing work, to get to the kids' little school plays and, after school stuff. But then you would feel guilty about missing the plays if you had to shoot. It was an internal conflict for me.
Okay, I said that Tuesday we had an all-day Bible study, and that's exactly what I said.
It is. It's a conflict.
Finally, at 52, found balance. But I still have moments of guilt no matter what I'm doing.
Right.
That I'm not doing something else.
Am I doing the right thing? Am I here for my family? Am I here for my career? It was not an easy decision. Now, I'd been working for this magazine, a little community magazine, since 2004. Just writing a monthly column. She paid me like $100 a month, And so I went to the owner in 2011. I said, listen, we're a 2-income family. I said, I'm considering leaving the station. Would you have a bigger role for me here? And she was like, oh my gosh, yes. And, if you left the station, I'll pay you like $35,000 a year. And I was like, okay, it was no money, but at least I had a little bit of income coming in, just to help. And
honey, I made $16,000 a year when I worked for the advertising agency.
See?
Following
yes.
my passion. And
Exactly.
I think that's what so many young kids aren't understanding
They don't
now.
understand. They want to graduate from college and go in and make $150,000 a year. It's like, pay your dues, kids. Like, we had to pay our dues. Like, it's not, don't. It's not like that. You have to pay your dues.
Yes.
But anyway, so I actually went and I talked to the owner of the TV station because he and I were very close, and I told him what I was doing, and he totally supported me. And I left the station, and it was in August of 2011, and it was like a shock to me because it was like all I knew was getting up in the morning and going to work. And the magazine was more of a work from home, be in your community, so it was a totally different thing.
It was almost like you were living your life and able to write about it.
It was weird. It was just totally different. And literally about 2 weeks after I left the station, I'd been at my new job for 2 weeks. The owner of the magazine, who I'd written for many years, like probably 6 years, takes me to lunch, and she was like, listen, I've got some good news and some bad news. And you never want to hear that when you left a job that you'd been at for 14 years, And she was like, I sold the magazine, but the new owners know exactly who you are, and they're super excited. So I was like,
goodness.
oh, thank gosh, So, I was working for the new owners for about 3 years. And then they came to me and offered, they wanted me to buy the magazine. They were ready to move on. And I got all the funding together. I was so excited. And this is how this was a big thing in my life. This was a big deal. This was 2013. I got all the funding together. I had the letter of intent signed, attorneys, everything. And a couple days before closing, she called me and she said, listen, I've changed my mind. I'm going to sell it to my best friend instead. And I'm like, wait, what? Like, what'd you just say? Like, shock. But what do you do in that position? This is where you're at a fork in the road. What do you do? So I decided, you know what? I'm just going to keep being my best self because it's obviously not in the plan. There's something else going on, bigger and better. And something bigger and better wasn't in the plan, however, immediately. But a few weeks later is when we found out my mom had lung cancer. And so I dealt with that for a year, and then her brain cancer, and then her death. And so for me, when things like that happen, I don't know what's coming down the road, but God has the plan. And he was protecting me.
He knew you needed the time to be with your mom.
He knew I needed the time. I could not have started a new business, and been there for my mother. And that's just the way it worked out exactly how it was supposed to. Now, when she passed in 2016, I went to the owner of the magazine and I was like, listen, I'm not happy. You need to sell me the magazine or I'm going to start my own and go up against you. And you really don't
want that.
You don't want that. You just don't want that. And she was like, you're right. I will sell you the magazine. So what's ironic is we actually closed on April 12th of 2017. We closed April 12th. And I was looking back on, I had like a file of buying the magazine. And 3 years prior on April 12th is when she pulled it. The lady who told me she was going to sell it pulled it from me.
I call that a God wink.
That's a God wink. 3 years to the date, I closed. And so it was like, I felt like, that was God's way of putting a period at the end and saying, this is why it was not sold to you back then. Now it's yours. And so.
And that's something in interviewing people that I find that are successful. And I just find successful as people that are committed to their family, their job, and community. To me,
Yes.
it's a balance, what I really see in people, because that's the people that exude joy. And that's been a consistent thing with so many of our guests and leaders of the community, is that they receive a no and they accept the no but find a new path. And I think that's been the most interesting part of COVID, is we've all been given so many no's and we've had to find our way through it.
We have.
And you did something else that every other leader did. You asked for it.
Yes, I did ask for help.
And sometimes we forget to ask for it. We forget to stand up for ourselves. We maybe complain, but we don't create the change. We're not open to the change.
I think one thing, like with COVID, for instance, I always in my mind feel like the creative will survive. You have to adapt. And I'm not going to use the word pivot, because
Yes.
I hate that word, especially in 2020. I will never say that word again. This is the last time you're going to ever hear me say that P word. Anyways, you had to adapt and change and maneuver and figure out ways to do things. And, as for, in March of this year, the April issue was already at print. We go to print mid-March, like the middle of the month. And so we were at print when the April issue. So I'll never forget, it was mid-March. We were on spring break. And then that's when everything happened. And so I'm on spring, and of course, we're not really enjoying spring break because
No.
everything is happening, and I've got advertisers calling me left and right. I need to cancel. I'm canceling. I'm canceling. I'm canceling. I'm canceling. And I'm like, you can't, I've already printed and paid for this. I can cancel you for May, but I can't, I've already So, of course, for the month of May, I had nobody advertising. And that's how you pay for the postage and the printing, and because it's not cheap. And I had to come up with a way, how am I going to do this? What am I going to do? And so that's when I came up with the idea to sell kind of graduate, so I reached out to, anybody who wanted to congratulate their senior graduating.
Brilliant. Yes.
And that saved me. That saved me for the month of May. I mean, so you're always having to adjust and just figure a new way, a new path. And, I go back to that, and I'll always be grateful to the people I'll always be grateful to the people that purchased an ad to salute their senior, because they really helped me. I mean, they helped me. And the magazine is free. So, we mail to 30,000 homes monthly. And so, I needed the help that month. And so I'll never forget the people that stepped in and helped, for sure.
Well, and I think because you're such a part of community, you've given to so many. There's so many charities suffering. You were chairing some events. You're working on the board. Tell us about some of those things that had to modify also, and how you figured that out creatively. Because there's a lot of charities out there really suffering.
There are. And I think, for me, I'm in a position, I always look at myself. I was born, and I truly believe this, God put me on this planet to tell other people's stories. I'm a storyteller. I don't tell my own story. I tell other people's stories. And I've been so incredibly blessed, just so incredibly blessed, that it is my duty to give back. Now, I am not in a position where I can write, $5,000 checks, but I have my time, and I've got the publication that I can help spread the word. And so, and I've always, since I started my career in the 90s, I've always gravitated toward nonprofits and charities. I'll never forget, it was in the mid 90s when I was at the community television station, and I was in charge of, over community affairs, and I created a thing called Charity Profiles. I was just always drawn to charities for some reason. And
was that from your family, your upbringing, or was it just what God put in your heart?
It wasn't. I mean, we were not a big volunteer family growing up. my mom would go to church, but we weren't a big volunteer family. So I don't know where that came from. But that spirit, and it's funny because I did the Berkman test not too long ago just to kind of see my personality. And do you know that was the number 2 thing that popped up is my need. It's like a need in me to give back. I mean, it's like a true,
I understand.
It's weird. It's
and
really weird.
I've felt that too. And I think that we're in such an amazing time that people have multiple ways to give a voice. Because back when you were in broadcasting, you had to be on TV or have a magazine to really get your voice out there. And now so much has changed with
social media,
podcasts. And with podcasts that we can still have a voice and have a way to communicate. And I think that's another thing that makes our country so great. Yesterday, I had my nails done, and I have to give a shout out to Sarah at Susan's Nails. I love them. But she was telling me about someone in Vietnam that spoke out against the government in the U.S., not even there. And when they went back to Vietnam, they were arrested. So I think it's amazing that we have a right, and we are certainly fighting for all of our rights right now in our country.
Absolutely.
But tell us about the food charity. What is?
I'm on the board of Kids Meals.
Kids Meals, that's what it is.
And it's interesting because I was not food deprived as a child. Like I was not around children that were food deprived. My children are not food deprived, but for some reason, I'll never. It was around in 2012. I called the executive director and I was like, I want to be on the board. And she was like, well, let's go to lunch and like you tell me why you want to be on the board and what you can do. And I was like, I don't know why. I just said, I feel a need. I like when I think of little preschool kids not eating their lunch, or they a lot of times what happens too is, the elementary school kids don't eat their lunch and they sneak the food and hide it and so they can bring it home to their family. It's heartbreaking to me to not.
And it's almost inconceivable given what our exposure is.
Well, I could not believe, Beth was like, listen, she was like, why don't you volunteer a little bit? Because of course I'd known about the organization and I'd volunteered, but she goes, I'll tell you what, she goes, I'm going to give you a route. I'm going to give you a map and a route. You go around and I want you feeding the kids, a few times, and then tell me if you're still interested. So the first time I got in my SUV and I have my map and I'm driving around to like all these neighborhoods that I didn't even know existed in Houston. And, here I'm thinking like, I'm this pretty hip girl that I've covered Houston for 20 years. I've seen it all. Well, no, I have not seen it all because, when you drive to a house and you honk your horn and a little toddler comes out in a diaper and you hand them the brown lunch out your window and they grab it and run back in the house, that was shocking to me. And it happened house after house after house. But also the grandparents or whoever's taking care of these kids are so grateful. There's such gratitude in the grandparents. They're waving from the porch, or when they come out, if they come out and get the food, they thank you. And this is done every single day. 5,700 meals are served daily.
Wow.
Daily to these children. And so it's just something in my heart that I felt called to do. And now, I'm just a huge fan of the organization. Another thing that makes me real happy about the organization is they're so fiscally responsible. Every single dime counts. Going back to my community television days, when I created the show Charity Profiles, what I did is I wanted to invite 50 charities, because back then there was probably 2,000 nonprofits in Houston. I don't
now
even,
the number is so much greater.
It's got to be greater. So back then there was about 2,000. So my goal the first year was to get 50 charities to come in, record a 15-minute little interview. But back then, I really didn't want to be in front of the camera, interestingly enough. Like, I think because I was so young, I was learning. So I thought, how am I going to get these charities to take me serious and come in and record this? And, pay a small production fee. And I thought, let me get some people that are respected in the community to do the interviewing. So I got Warner Roberts, Carolyn Farb, Shelby Hodge, Connie Cook, Jan Carson, Jan Glenn. I got all these respected names in the community. And this was in the mid-90s. So they would come in, and so of course these charities wanted to get in front of these ladies because they were so respected, and still are to this day. And so that was, and I did charity profiles for 3 years. And by the time I left, I think it was in 97, we had over 400 charities participate. And so I had days set up, like Shelby Hodge had a day, Carolyn Farb had a day, and we would shoot from morning till night. And it was awesome. So I think that's also where a love of charities, because I got to meet so many and get to know so many of them,
And you're such a connector. That's another big part of what we talk about on Living the Authentic Life.
Definitely.
And collaboration
Absolutely.
is what I hear in everything.
Absolutely.
So even today, how do you figure that out? We're talking about being authentic. There's so many, you and I were having this discussion, is we are really careful about who we collaborate with and who we recommend to our friends, because we want people to know if we're going to give a shout out, if we're going to endorse something, we have to believe in it.
You have to believe in it. It's so weird for me to say that I'm a brand, but I am a brand. I mean, and I think every single person out there is their own brand. I mean, let's face it, you don't go to the grave with money. You don't go to the grave with diamonds and furs. You go to the grave with your name, and that's it. And so every person is their own brand, and how you're going to, use that brand and what your heart, some people are better check writers. Some people are better worker bees. And some people, I think because of the profession I've had, and I know so many people, I love putting people together to help each other, just for nothing else rather than, I think that's what you're put on this earth to do is, you can either live in fear or love. And I want to live in love, and I want to help people, and just, it's just the right thing to do.
Well, the 5 principles of collaboration are trust, respect, willingness, empowerment, and communication. So do you have any collaborations with people coming up that you want to share about? Are there interesting things happening in the memorial community that...
I mean, the only thing coming up that I can think of off the top of my head is we do this thing called Ladies of Memorial. When I bought the magazine in 2017, I changed the name to Swoon. And first of all, everybody's like, why Swoon? What does that mean? And what is a swoon? And my response is, when you're swooning over something, isn't that a good thing? Isn't that exhilarating, or, what is that? So I changed the name to Swoon, and I said in the first couple weeks, I'm going to do an event, and I want to honor women solely on what they're doing for the school districts, for the, the community of Memorial, the nonprofits, the kids, the parks, all of that. And it took me a while to get it done, because I was I kept putting it on the back burner, gosh, another event. Do I really want to do an event? But I finally did it in 2019. In May of 2019, I did it. And it was such an awesome thing. I mean, we take nominations from the memorial community, and I'm talking people that you've never heard of, that are just they're up at the schools every day just filing papers or whatever. It was just a whole gamut of different women in the community, and it was just so great. And so we, of course, had it scheduled for May of this year.
Yes.
Postponed. It's going to be February 5th. And we will have social distancing in place. And everybody has to wear their masks, while they're not at their tables. And but I was determined. I said, I am doing this event. I'm not doing it virtual, or I'm not doing it. It's going to be in person, because I want these women who work so hard to be recognized. And not only that, it's not so much about the women, but it's about promoting the charities that they represent. It's getting the word out about them. And I'm going to put all the women on the cover on the February issue of the cover. The women will be on the cover. And I'm so excited. I love this event. It's just grassroots, a big celebration, of these great women.
I'm excited to have an event. I have to say that we were also talking about this in our group on Tuesday, is that now that we've slowed down, maybe we won't pick up as much and add to our schedules at the level we did.
I don't think we will. I really don't.
Because now that I have space to be at home on the couch with Bella, or... It's
different.
It is.
I say my husband travels, and so since the pandemic, he's been working from home. And I have to say, I mean, we've really enjoyed just, being home together, which is, we've been together 20 years. I mean, but we've really enjoyed just reconnecting. And I've said from the second week that this thing hit, the second week we were on lockdown, I said to my husband, this was God's way of hitting the reset button on us.
Absolutely.
Just reset. Like, things have got to slow down, calm down, and just people need to refocus on family, on God, on country, on just everything that our country was founded on. We have got to focus on that again.
Speaking of country, you came out in support of Dan Crenshaw.
I did.
We've been careful in being people that speak to a lot of different people. We also supported Wesley Hunt, but we've been careful not to really pick people in political races. But I know that you stepped out to...
I did. And
tell us why you chose him and why you felt confident.
What's interesting about Dan is... and let me just say too, it's coming from I will say this, coming from a broadcast background, I'll never forget, things have changed a bunch. When I was on television back in the 90s and 2000s, up till 2011 even, we were not allowed to in any way say whether we were Republican or Democrat in any way. We had to sign papers on it. It was major. It's like there's all kinds of FCC paperwork. And I'll never forget, there was a guy running for mayor, Orlando Sanchez. He was a dear friend of mine, had a major crush on him, loved him. And he was running for mayor, and I invited him on the show. We couldn't talk politics. I just thought he was cute.
You're like,
yeah.
I'm going to say, no offense, Brent.
I wasn't even married to Brent yet. In fact, the night I met Brent when he was running for mayor, it's a long story. But anyways, so I invited Orlando on to cook a flan recipe.
Oh, funny.
And like from his grandmother or something. And, so of course I had to invite his opponent on. And he didn't want to come on. I even forgot who it was. But back then, everything was fair, equal time. I mean, you had to have equal time. It's not like that anymore. It's just not like that. It's just different. The media is very different. Church and state used to be separate. It's not. I mean, it's very different now. And I'll be honest, I'm very glad that I'm not. I don't like the way the media has gone. I'll be honest. I just don't. I think everybody should keep their opinions to themselves, especially when you have a voice and you're broadcasting it. You have to keep. I just feel you should keep your opinions to yourself. But anyways, let's go back to Dan Crenshaw.
Yeah. So feeling that, why did you break that and decide to support him?
The reason I decided to vocally support Dan Crenshaw, and he's the only one that I can't say that because I really like Wesley Hunt too. And I choose a person for the candidate. I don't choose necessarily by party. I choose by the candidate pretty much. But Dan Crenshaw, He's a former Navy SEAL. Read his book. I met him several times. During the pandemic, he was out passing masks out all over, which I know a lot of candidates did that. I think what really resonated with me is, my brother-in-law's a Navy SEAL, a former Navy SEAL. So I felt, that connection to him. And then after listening to him speak, what a patriot. I mean, plain and simple. Take politics aside, he's an American patriot. That's it. And that's where my heart is. We were raised, my brother and I were raised to be patriots and to love our country, love God, our country, family. That's how we were raised. And so yes, I was and I am a big fan of his, a big one. And if you haven't read his book, you need to read his book, Fortitude. It's a great book. And it's, I'll tell you this, it's now that can focus probably a little bit more on this book now. He's probably going to get more well known than he already is, because this book is really, really good. He just hasn't put any attention on the book because he was running for office,
Well, I think the nation kind of noticed him also when Saturday Night Live took a shot at him.
There is no such thing as bad press. There is no bad press.
Doesn't he have 2 million followers on Instagram?
Oh, I think it's more than that. I mean, he's got a big, big following. And I know so many of my Democrat friends love him. They just adore him because he's just a good person.
Well, for me, he did a lot to help with sex trafficking, and he brought
absolutely
the bill up to help put some guidelines. And so anyone that supports that, I too supported Wesley Hunt. He was on our podcast. But I work very closely with Kim Ogg, and she's a Democrat, and she does huge things for trafficking.
Right.
So for me, it's more about where my passions lie and where my heart
and that's how everybody should be.
Yes.
Everybody should be like that. I totally agree.
So tell us a little bit about, people are passionate about being on the news. Should it be passionate about being on the news, or should it be passionate about delivering the news? Tell us a little bit about where you feel like people should take their creativity if they're thinking about this, and how they really can look at their gut and see if it's right for them.
I think it needs, in what terms, if what's right for them?
Well, I'm kind of leading the question because I feel like, and I'll just say it, I feel like so many people on social media, or so many people that are known now, are doing it for the celebrity side of it, as opposed to having their heart in it or having a mission to it. And being good friends with Deborah Duncan also, she said so many people come to her and go, oh, I want to be on TV. And she's like, well, you need to not want to be on TV. You need to want to have a voice and allow people to have that voice. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Again, it goes back to, that's what I think I was born to do, tell people stories. When I was on the show, when I was hosting the show, I would have mothers from drunk driving on, who had just lost a son, or a daughter to a drunk driver. And I wanted to get their story out. It's all about, if there's a young kid out there, I get this all the time. Same with
how
Deborah.
Do I do it? How do I break in?
How do I get on TV? How do I become my own host? And it's not easy, I'll tell you that, because there's not that many talk show hosts. I think I tell this to my daughter, Dylan, who she's a junior, and she's, some days she's like, yeah, I want to be like you. And then earlier she's like, no, all you do is blah, 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 blah. So
Bella only doesn't want to be me.
Yeah, exactly. I know every time I say to Dylan, someday you can own this, Dylan. This could be yours someday. She's like, no, thank you. No, thanks.
Okay. And Yes. Bella was telling her friends what she wanted to do was travel the world and do it for business and be able to experience all of it. And they go, isn't that your parents' business? And she goes, no, I don't want to do that.
No, not them. That is so fun. I mean, that cracks me up. The kids are so funny. And again, it goes back to these millennials and these other kids that they think they're going to like just walk into their dream job and they don't know. I cannot wait till my child has to earn a living. She's going to be so shocked that, I mean, I can't wait. It's going to be awesome. It is going to be awesome. But no, I tell people, I have lots of interns that work for me, and, I tell them all the time, like, what is your end goal? And I give them steps to get, and I am a huge proponent of interns and mentors. I had a lot of mentors that helped me, and I have a lot of interns that I'm giving it back and teaching them and helping them, because interns are so important. I could have never gotten to where I was if I did not have people take me under their wing, like Carolyn Farb. I mean, in the mid-90s, she literally, we met at an event. It was one of my very first events, and I don't even think I was really holding my silverware correctly. You know what I'm saying? Like, not that I grew up, but you know what I'm saying? When you're at a fancy event, there's a lot of silverware, and you're like kind of
amen.
And you're like, oh my God.
To the left. Water
yeah, I'm like, I'm 25, I'm in this big fancy gala and there's all this silverware and I'm like, But she really, honestly, she took me under her wing when I was in my mid-20s, and she taught me so much. She was a good mentor. Now, not everybody's going to have a Carolyn Farb mentor them, but you get who you can. It could be somebody through your church or somebody through the school or somebody through college. You grab on to anybody you can who will teach you, and help you.
And the other thing that I've shared with Bella is she started doing our Pinterest board. I said, this is something that you're already doing. You're already on Pinterest. If we send you our pictures, you know what kids like. You know what people like. Post it, do it. And
now y'all should be paying her for that.
No, we do actually.
Yes,
That's her.
That's her job.
That's her job. And so when she makes money, she can go shopping, and we have a running tally. And so she's kind of earning her shopping budget.
Mm-hmm. Well, Dylan, she tutors. She's got a little tutoring company where she's a junior, but she's bright in some subjects. And she got that from my husband, not me, for sure. She tutors, though, little kids, like elementary school. So she did inherit the mentoring gene from me. I will give her that. So she goes out and she mentors and she tutors kids, and she gets paid for it. So like as an elementary school, a parent's busy or something, sitting down with elementary school kids, and doing homework is not fun. So they hire my daughter to do it. So she's got her own little business going, and, she's got to save her money and, just because I'm telling you what, these kids they want nice stuff. Stuff that I didn't get when I grew up.
Absolutely.
No, so if you need to earn that money, I mean, you got to go out and you got to work for it. So she works like 15 hours a week, and,
And I find that that's also great. We are super close with my brother's family, and my nephew Barrett work with us, and he's at A&M now. But
so cute.
Yes, and his girlfriend Anna was helping Bella with cheer, and I think it's also good to have older kids because middle school is so hard. Again, this mentoring thing, even if they're just a few years older, they can talk about problems growing up and friend drama and these different things that go on, because it's true. And I try to share that even as an adult, I have friend drama and challenges, and they're not just the only ones going through it.
Listen, we're the type of family where, we're very open. We talk about stuff. I'm not saying she tells me, because she's a teenager, but, we had the sex talk with both kids when they were very young, and, we talked openly about our periods and menstruation, and I do have to say this. It was, I might not recommend this, but it was kind of funny because, if she was being grumpy or whiny or frankly bitchy, like sometimes I would say, are you on your period? Like, why are you being like this, Dylan? And finally our little boy was like, okay, y'all are always talking about Dylan's period. What is a period? So we were like, oh crap. Now we got to tell him what a period is. So we all sit down and we explain to Brooks. And then he looks at us. He looks at me and Brent, my husband, and he was like, ew, that means y'all did it twice. Because we have 2 kids. So yeah, yes, Brooks, we did it 2 times. So
that is fabulous.
Isn't that funny? So yes, we're the type of family where we're very open about, things and talking, because I would rather my kids hear it from me than from their friends. I don't want them hearing anything, I just don't. I want them hearing it from me, and I want them hearing things in a godly way too.
Yes.
I want them hearing things in a godly way. So,
well, and I think it's an interesting time because they're so exposed, not just to TV, because I remember that I grew up very Catholic, and the church would tell us that we couldn't watch certain shows on TV. Mm-hmm. Well, now our kids are so exposed to so much on their phone that we don't even know about.
We have no clue.
And there's been some challenges in friendships in middle school.
Of course.
And one of the girls even said, oh, you're just doing it because your family did it. And that really kind of stuck out with me. It's like, what is so bad about having a value because your family did it or because your grandparents had it? And I've been really diving into learning about blue zones, and that's where people live to be 100.
I have the book.
You do?
My brother bought me the book for Christmas last year, yes.
It's pretty fascinating.
It is fascinating.
And a lot of those places, there are multi-generational people together as parts of the family. So it's the great-great-great-grandparent, and it goes down, and they're learning from everyone. And we, as a community, don't necessarily have that because we're all moving around so much and our lives are so busy.
I will tell you this too. I'm 52. We're the same age.
Yes.
I lost my grandmother when I was 45. So I had my grandmother a really long time. I just lost her 7 years ago. And then I lost my mom 5 years ago. And so, for so long it was, my kids, especially my brother's kids, they really got to enjoy the multi-generational. Mm-hmm. I tell all of my friends that still have their parents, please cherish that, because I took it for granted. My mom was always around, and I just, I thought she'd always be there, and I totally took it for granted. So I tell all my friends with moms, don't take it for granted, because trust me, when she's not there, it's a hole that will never get filled. It will never be replaced. I mean, I'm 5 years out, and she's still very missed. It gets easier, but it's just a big hole, especially if you have a really close relationship with your mom. It's, I tell all my friends, like the other day someone was complaining, oh, my mother, she's just being a pain in the butt. And then I was like, you've got her. Like, don't say that, because you're so blessed you still have her, So it's interesting you brought up the multi-generational, because that is so important, and it's a lost tradition.
And I want to say that, and I've shared this in past episodes, but I have had a challenging family dynamic. Growing up Italian, we're very passionate, so we say everything we think, which that is not always a good thing. And there's been pain and challenge, and now we are all reconnected. I'm reconnected with my brother and his family and my dad, and I can say, because leaving the family business to start the Vintage Contessa brought a lot of pain into our family.
I'm sure.
And there was abandonment issues, there was anger, there were things said. And we've all just chosen to forgive each other.
Please.
And we've all chosen to move on. And I think the greatest thing is that Bella has seen the forgiveness playing out. And I think that I've also seen a lot of people.
That's huge. I mean, forgiveness is something that you can't live a full life without forgiveness. So for you guys to do that it's big. It's amazing.
No less than a miracle. I mean, we're a family of faith, so we believe that God helped that process, but it was a lot of humble pie and just humbling yourself to say that you're sorry and to not look at the other person. So I think it's part of our authentic walk. So unfortunately, we're out of time, but I would love to hear kind of after our whole talk. You are so authentic. You've shared so beautifully. You're an amazing friend. You give so much to the community. You're an incredible mother. You're a strong businesswoman. You've overcome adversity in ways that so many people couldn't do, haven't done, haven't been able to do. So how people searching for authenticity in their life and their hearts and their relationships. Can you give some parting words and thoughts?
Just always be transparent. Just always be the real you. Give with love. Don't expect anything in return. And just, a good friend of mine said to me, your day starts when you go to bed at night. Because you have dreams. So if you go to bed angry or upset or pissed off or whatever, you're going to wake up probably in that same mood. So I always go to bed, peaceful, just loving, thankful, gratitude, just beyond grateful for everything that I've been given, just beyond grateful, and I try to do a gratitude list, at least 3 things a day. Go to sleep with 3 things that happened in your day to be grateful for. That's it. Just 3 little things. And it's pretty amazing. It'll change your life. It will.
Because everything we have that we need for life is in us if we find it and if we look for it. Because God has given us all that.
We have it all. We have a connection to Him. We have it all.
And if you choose gratitude, it's hard to feel anger and pain.
You can't. It's impossible to. They don't go together. It's impossible.
Well, thank you for your love and for sharing this day with us. I know it was a great thing, and I even learned so much about you. And Stacy Benton posted on a direct message. She's like, "Oh, I love her." So that's the other great thing about social media.
Yeah, she and I grew up together. So we were like really, really good friends growing up together. So
I love that. Yes. Well, guys, certainly share this with your friends. Next week, we are talking about trafficking. We have Jonna Stallings, Assistant DA, to come in and talk with us, with Amy Pierce from Houston 20, and we're going to continue that journey, just bringing more information.
It's tragic.
And certainly reach out to Lara if you want to help with the kids.
Kids meals.
Kids and meals, yes. And learn more about getting involved with her magazine.
That'd be great.
All right. Thanks, guys.